Okay, guys, the games are over with now. The final score in the NID game was about 82 to 48 or 30 or something like that. That score might not be correct, but Black Templars did pull out the victory by a significant margin. We are now going to talk to the players who played. Right now, we have Brandon, who played the Nurgle against Custodes. So let's go to have Connor talk to him for right now. Let me see here.
Oh, shit. There we go.
Crash on me. So, all right. So we're back. Oh. All right, Connor.
Yo.
Okay, so go ahead and talk to Brandon here for a little bit. He said he's Nurgle. He played against a Custody player, and it was a lot closer game than it looked in the first few turns.
That's true.
So
yeah, Brandon.
Yes.
So been doing this for all day. So tell me a little bit about your list, why you think it's an effective 9th edition list, and tell me a little bit about the turning points in the game and what you think you did that allowed you to win the game.
Sure. So I'll go over the list really quickly. Give a lot of thanks to TJ Lanigan as well. He was giving me a lot of pointers to ditch the Plague Marines on my previous list, which led me to this current list. Mainly it's a Demon Battalion and then a Death Guard Spearhead. Demon Battalion has the Great Unclean One, Epidemus, and the Sloppy Bile Piper. And then the Death Guard Spearhead mainly has 3 Mephitic Blight Haulers in one unit, and then 3 PBCs, plus a couple of scattering of characters, obviously Foul Blightspawn, Demon Prince, a lot of Nurglings. This game was only Plague Bearers because I don't have the models painted for Nurglings, but usually it'd be like 15 or 18 Nurglings. So for this list, it was 15.
You can take your mask off, by the way.
Perfect.
If you're solo, you can pop it off.
Appreciate them. Playing with it all day. So the biggest thing was talking to the Custodes player. He had the Ares gunship. I don't really have an answer to that. So what I did was basically ignore it for most of the game. The idea was to deal with his bikes and then start pressing his Caladiuses, either tagging them up in combat or making sure that they couldn't start firing on the Demon Prince. With the Sloppy Bile Piper, it gives me the advance in charge. So I think threatening the advance in charge mid-board the whole game kind of forced him to play a little more conservatively. I think the biggest advantage was just making 4 invulns on the Poxmonger detachment, having 36 wounds of PBCs plus another 16, 24 wounds of Mephitics with the 4 invuln just makes it super hard. Choosing -1 to hit with the miasma on the Mephitics as well kind of gave it some spin. Custodes are super effective at just being efficient. So it was really effective to just kind of mess with their math in their heads. So they had to commit everything into it. He ended up making, I think, a big mistake by charging my Nurglings on the objective, which allowed me to countercharge with all the PPCs and just shoving them down his throat, which ended up kind of making his efficiency for the bikes go down, and I can just whittle him down. So I think the biggest play was actually his play into the Nurglings, allowed me to counterpunch pretty effectively.
So why do you take the Blight Haulers?
The Blight Haulers are super efficient for wounds. It's also the only thing I have to deal with anti-tank. The mortars are good, but D6 shots is super swingy. The Blight Haulers with the multi-meltas plus the crack missiles, and then hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s is really good. It also forces people to put at least 8 wounds into a 4-up invuln with a 5-up field no pain to just bring their efficiency down to 4s. And because it kind of carries over weird, you can usually kind of make them overcommit to that unit, which means the PBCs are allowed to, full advance up the board and really get into people's faces. So I like them Mephitics. They're actually super good in combat too. 12 attacks on the charge with their gnashing maws is like enough scary that they do enough damage to neuter some things. And then there's 3 of them. So I've actually at times been able to wrap things with them. Just to kind of keep them from getting shot. One character or an infantry model left over. So I really like them for their point efficiencies. If they went up like 30 or 40 points, I think they go down in efficiency. But at the current price point, I think they're really good.
So your list is all about efficient, durable units that like just get their job done to the point. There's nothing wasted.
That's the idea. I mean, isn't every player trying to fine tune and min max their list? I think the biggest problem with this list is that if the wheels come off the bus turn 3, you usually don't have enough left over to limp it to the finish line. If you can bridge turn 3 on like a hold more or enough to you've neutered them enough that it puts them on the back foot, it usually limps to a victory. The biggest problem with it is if someone has a lot of high damage or high volume of shots, it can kind of get a little wacky. Or if they can tie things up where I can get pinned in my deployment zone. I mean, obviously, 9th edition turn 1 is going first is super effective. And that's the biggest problem I have with this list is getting pinned too far off the objectives and just getting whittled down.
So the grid on clean one is big, tough. Is he kind of like your bully unit in the midfield?
He's actually more of a distraction Carnifex.
Okay.
If I can get you to shoot him, and I'll usually warp surge.
You're like, yes.
Yeah, it's perfect. I've only had one person kill him, and they put their entire army into him, and end up losing on primary just because they sacrifice all of their units to go into him. The biggest problem with him is 5 attacks with Sloppity nearby. So 5 attacks is just not enough volume to do things. So he's really more of a distraction. If I can get you to shoot him or do things into him, I'm winning. If you're going into PPCs and Mephitics, I'm actually losing. The biggest thing with the Sloppity and the Great Unclean one is just throw them up the board as fast as possible and getting them into lines just to cause disruption.
So you're undefeated, yeah?
No, one. Lost our Necron player.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was going to ask you about Necrons, but so we didn't get to talk to you. So it sounds like this game kind of like you got to play your game.
Yeah.
The Custodes player just kind of ended up making a little mistake, and his bikes are tied up, and that's like 600 points of his army and all
Probably
of his mobility.
More, 7 bikes plus his captain too, so it's almost an entire killing force. And then the rest was in deep strike. So he deep struck the captain and the custodian guard. So he had enough that he couldn't deal with it, and just got bogged down.
That's fair. So your list is kind of like, it's not quite like that Plague Bearer spam list. It's like maybe the 9th edition version of that, where everything is very efficient. It's very strong on board control. It doesn't kill a ton. Probably kills less than the Plague Bearer list with all the smites that were behind it. Because do you find do you ever struggle to kill things with that list?
The biggest thing is I don't want to kill things. I can't kill all your characters. I take mental interrogation as a secondary, and having that secondary, if I have no characters to cast that near, it actually is bad. And I don't want the Great Unclean one casting it because it's a waste of cast. I also very rarely cast Smite. It's only okay, I did it because I have nothing else to cast. It's primarily Miasma, Fleshy Abundance, and maybe Shriveling Pox if I need something to go from T8 to T7. So it's really more I want to get stuck in, but I want to get stuck in on your side of the board versus on my side of the board. And the first game against Necrons, I lost very close. We only ended up playing. I clocked him at top of 3 on his turn because of his Necrons have a lot of shooting. But the pregame move for Necrons, him going first, pinned me off. It's too much to deal with, and I can't chew through that many warriors. So if I end up getting pinned on the mid board, it can be basically debilitating. So Necrons are good, but I think they rely on shooting, and a lot of time I was tagging units and they were just losing shooting units. So I don't think the game I think it was a lot closer than it should have been, but it was still a close match.
So is there anything, you mentioned Nurglings, is there anything you want to change about your list? Like if you had the ideal version, you have all the models that you need, what is the list at that point?
Cut the Plague Bearers, put 7 more Nurglings in. They're just too efficient. The infestation is probably the most used stratagem I use to bring them back on a 5+. It's too good. And running them is 2 7s and an 8-man. I think it's the point wise. It's super effective. I also summon a Poxbringer. So I save about 80 points in reinforcement points just to put it 2,000 on the nose because it feels better. But overall, I think if I could change the Plague Bearers to Nurglings, that would be my ideal list.
So what is appealing to you about Nurgle?
I'm always been a Death Guard player. I got into the game for Death Guard. I've only been playing about a year and a half. And only competitively about 3 months. So I think Nurgle, I'm trying to go for rank 1 Death Guard. So most of the army is Death Guard. But overall, Nurgle is just super efficient, super durable, and it can be more forgiving on mistakes because sometimes the dice just go your way. And making players think through that math of a 4-up invuln with a 5-up feel no pain or a 5-up invuln with a 4-up feel no pain, it throws the math off. So they can't do that kind of like quick math they need to do. And if you put them on, I put everyone on a clock. So if I just kind of set the tone as a quick game, it forces them to do quick math, and they'll either overcommit or undercommit, and units will get left alive. And Nurgling is just the worst. One Nurgling and then rolling a couple 5-ups to come back. It's the worst. Or even it's so debilitating to watch a PBC live with 1 wound and take an objective off you. So it's really more like I can frustrate you to make you make mistakes. Once you're making mistakes, I can kind of capitalize on that.
My local buddy I play with plays Nurgle and Death Guard, so all too well I know the pain of leaving one Nurgling alive.
Definitely, yeah, and it can be actually game winning because I mean if they don't OPSEC or they put too much into it, it can take an objective off, and especially how ninth is scored, it's really effective at being just annoying and point effective.
So Nurgle, annoying, point effective, and efficient.
That's how it works.
Nailed it.
Cool, man. It's good talking to you, dude.
It's a pleasure, man. Thanks so much.
All right.
So we're I'm gonna bring in Ryan now, who played him.
Awesome.
Get that going on.
Oh, excellent.
Good game.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. All right, Ryan. No, he's in the computer. He's in the computer. So okay. Awesome. All right.
Ryan.
How's it going, man?
What is up, man? I'm Connor.
Connor, good to meet you.
All right. So that was a hell of a game, dude. It came down to the wire there, dude.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that was a great game.
So tell me about. So your list is interesting, right? Because everybody loves the Terminators, and I think you have a unit of 3, or
they're actually just they're guard with Pyrethite. They're guardians with Pyrethite spears. So they're not actually Terminators, but they have stats equivalent.
So do they deep strike for free, or do you pay?
No, I pay 1 CP to deep strike them.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah, they're a little bit cheaper than Alaris. They're 55 points a model rather than 70 points a model.
Yeah.
And I like the added Melta. You know, it's nice to be able to pop a tank or kind of threaten a character with that Melta.
Are you wearing a Custodes sweatshirt?
I am, yes.
This man is an icon.
Thank you.
Give thumbs up in the chat. That's crazy. So take me a little bit. Take me through why your list and why you made those unit choices, and then get into the game and sort of what happened.
Yeah. So I like to move fast. I like to hit hard. I like to move fast. I like to maneuver. You know, I've always, studying the wargaming and stuff for a long time. I've always preferred maneuver over, I guess, board control. I was a Marine, so one of the things they really hammered into us was more a dynamic form of warfare. They kind of compare us to the Army, where they fight the attrition war. You know, you want to outnumber your opponent 3-1 in order to win, whereas the Marines generally go in when they're outnumbered 3-1, but they're moving faster, they're moving stronger. So I've always kind of had that sort of ingrained in me, and I've always really liked fast elite armies. Just growing up, I played Total War. I always liked playing horseman armies full of horses, and so it's just kind of, I kind of have a propensity for it. I like it because, in 40K, that's more relevant in the fact that I can generally make better use of terrain than infantry armies.
Sure. So
I can jump from terrain piece to terrain piece to make the most of that cover. And then it also helps me jump from objective to objective better. So a lot of times, like big Alaris bombs, they drop in, they can get fenced, then they can get kited, and a lot of times you're scrambling to hold one objective with 700 points. If you do unleash the lions, you gotta advance and try to get to those objectives. But the Virtus Praetors are nice because with that 14-inch move, possibly a 6-inch advance roll, they can really push up the board. They can really get to those objectives. So even when if I deep strike them, which I've been thinking about doing more of, rather than the 3 guys with the Pyrethite spears, that's been one of the things that came to mind in the game against the Black Templars. But also in this game, you could see that the 3 Pyrethite guys kind of lagged and just got a few Melta shots off, scored line breaker points. And I think if I would have switched that around and had Virtus Praetors on the other side, I think I would have been able to control that backfield objective by turn 3. And turn 3 was the turn that I didn't score any primary. So
interesting.
So I like the better obscuring terrain helps me a lot compared to 8th edition, because I have small, fast elite units. They have a lot of wounds. They are really tough to kill, and they can move fast. So they can jump over terrain. They can do stooping dive, and all those things to me add up to be more of a play than taking Alaris. The gunship functions largely the same. The fact that I can just move them anywhere on the board He can get firing lanes at any point, and he can pretty much shoot and kill anything he shoots at, with few exceptions, especially vehicles. That to me is just a big plus. And then the Caladius tanks, same thing. 14-inch move. They can jump over things. They're fly. They're not flyers, but they can move over a piece of terrain if needed. And then having that movement, that 14-inch movement, is usually enough with the length of the tank itself to be able to move from one objective to the next.
Nice.
So a lot of times they'll hold the backfield. Like, people are like, "Why don't you take Sisters of Battle to hold backfield objectives?" And I got 2 Caladius tanks to do that. And unlike the Sisters, they're shooting a lot of shots and good shots, and then they can move up from those backfield objectives when the Virtus Praetors clear. And the Virtus Praetors are moving into the enemy territory, those Caladius tanks can move up and then take those midfield objectives. So it's a lot more dynamic in its play, and I like the layers of the maneuver that you can set up with that. I've been really trying to figure out what's the best way to use stooping dive in conjunction with those 2 tanks as move blockers. It's been something I've been struggling to try to figure out, especially in smaller deployment zones, how to use the best cover, but then also how to set up against those first turn charging armies like Black Templars and stuff that can really move across the space. A lot of armies these days. Setting up that counterpunch, the stooping dive, without getting Judicard or something, has been kind of a struggle.
The Judicard is rough.
Yeah. I just like the things when I look at the Virtus Praetors, like the things that I really lack compared to the Laris is like the strats, so the ignore neg 1, neg 2, like, it's kind of a tough thing, but the way I see it, more often than not, I'm able to hide my Virtus Praetors enough so they don't get shot at all, or at least they're mitigating more of that firepower. And you can kind of see that in that game against Death Guard there, where just on that one side of that centerpiece, he only got, I think, initially we thought he had 1 shot of the Melta, but since we were using the glass rather than the actual terrain footprint, he wasn't able to shoot at him at all, so didn't need to use a strat, that.
So you guys were using like the kind of the frame.
Yeah, we were using the glass
piece.
There's like glass pieces
on the bottom.
On the bottom that I don't even you can see him on. I'm looking at one of the side screens he's got here. I can't even.
Yeah, it's imperceptible on the screen. It's just
a
base 3D model.
That might have been.
But speaking of the game, like what? So we had that big Nurgling charge in the game, and I heard you talking about it afterward with. Now I'm blanking on the fine gentleman's name who played Nurgle, but
Brandon.
Yeah.
Brandon Fox.
You said that the thing that you felt lost to the game is that Nurgling charge. Like, why did you want to make that charge?
Yeah, I would say it was a combination between. Going too early in, and then him making all those 4-up saves in the beginning of the game. Mm-hmm. So, generally speaking, when he made those really aggressive moves, I kind of read him wrong. I could tell he's a really good player, and it didn't seem like a baited move. He seemed like he just kind of rushed in. So I was kind of like, I can charge these guys. He doesn't have a lot of combat power, even if he charges me with his Plague Burst Crawlers, like Virtus Praetors versus Plague Burst Crawlers in combat. Not really like a super threat on my mind. And so he rushed in. So I kind of bit onto the bait, partly just because I think I read the play wrong. I thought he was just being really hasty. And so I kind of got led into it a little bit, going, okay, he's really pushing the mid. And then because he spread them out on the 2 sides, I was like, okay, if I run my Virtus Praetors far left as possible, kill off those Nurglings, I can isolate and keep my Virtus Praetors like killing a Plague Burst Crawler a turn, possibly 2 a turn. And then I'm holding that side objective, and then all I got to deal with is the big bloated guy coming across the center,
Sure.
So I underestimated his speed, to be able to advance and charge with that guy following in suit. I kind of underestimated that speed, the fact that he could just pretty much cover that midfield anyways.
Just yeet it.
Yeah, 13, he's rolling 6s hot. That was the other thing. That the conjunction was the fact that he rolled so hot. So I think if you would have rolled average for that first turn for those invul saves, and if I was able to kill those Mephitic off and then do a little bit more damage on one of the Plague Burst Crawlers, I think it would have swung faster into my favor. And then if I was able to, possibly consolidate a little bit over, but I just really botched the whole thing. I was hoping to stooping dive at one point, and he really I didn't expect the Plague Burst to be played so aggressively. So that kind of put me on my back foot. And then you see that I had to basically go, okay, I'm going to get charged and held in combat. I'm not going to get any objective points, or I could fall back, use my salvo launchers, and then get my reroll wounds on the interceptor lance charge when I want to line up a charge. And you saw that what I did with the demon prince and the character. So I didn't expect the counterpunch to be as effective. I underestimated the movement of his big guy. With that guy trailing in behind
with the stopping.
Yeah. So I just set myself up for a really nasty counterpunch that kind of knocked the wind out of me, and then pretty much kept him on both flanks the whole game. And then you could see that he could pretty much unimpeded then just move up with those Nurglings to threaten that backfield.
Your home field objective.
Yeah. So I think if I would have played the first turn cagey and just been content with 5 primary points and just been like whipped a turn of shooting, no problem. And then let him try to maneuver, because he probably would have went the other way with the big bloated guy. He probably wouldn't have went in the center, which is probably what I should have let him do. And then I could comfortably then move away from and off that objective, and the Praetors then would have been in any danger whatsoever by that guy, because he would have been on the other side of that terrain piece. Yeah, and kind of eking in on the Caladius. So I should have played it cagey. I should have just been like, I lost 3 points of grinding down, because I didn't kill anything. That's fine. That's no problem. And just taking the 5 points, and then, let him overextend again into that second turn.
So you can pounce.
Switch that big guy up, try to sneak around that flank into that center and into my backfield objective. And then I should have made that move. Hopefully got a better turn of shooting. And then charge targets, of my choosing, because his Nurglings probably would have come up. I probably could have stooping dived the Nurglings, in his turn. But it's hard to say, because those Nurglings are so tough too. The Nurglings are hard.
Super annoying to kill.
They're super annoying. If I wouldn't have pushed up, those Nurglings would have been very close to getting into charge range as well, and just really, really cornering me out. But I think that would have been best. It's just been drawing everything closer to that my deployment zone, and then just really punching hard on one side, and then pushing on to whatever flank, and then holding at least 2, so that I'm gaining at least 10 points a turn, so I can max those primaries. And then like you saw towards the end there, then I was able to come back and get 15 in the last turn.
Because you only lost by 6 or 7.
It was 9. It was 91 to 82. 91 to 82. Yeah. So I mean, I would have two objectives that turn 3 where I scored 0. I would have won by 1 point.
Yeah.
But it was a great game anyway. So like I said, I think that was the move that sort of threw my rhythm off, and I couldn't really play to my strengths then, because I was getting charged, so I wasn't getting rerolls to wound. I wasn't getting salvo launcher shots, and you saw that it came down to just, I almost tabled him without those things, minus the big guy. He was pretty much undented. So I think that was it. I think I really needed to just play a little bit more cagey that first turn, and then kind of did this, basically just did the same thing, but with a better rhythm, where I'm getting more salvo launcher shots. I'm killing a thing. I'm moving on to the next thing, killing a thing, and then I'm holding that objective pretty much with immunity, because he only had those 2 scoring units on the other side. So he's either, I can either just move off that backfield objective, and I'm holding then his backfield objective in 1, so I'm still getting that 10 points. Whatever way it could have went, I think it would have been better off if I just I made the same. I made the not the same mistake. I think he played it right, but I think I bit into that and overextended myself, trying to make him pay for something that wasn't really necessarily a bad move, to begin with.
So the salvo launchers, why do you take those over hurricane bolters?
For lists like this, if I had taken hurricane bolters, they would have been pretty useless. They don't get to shoot. They don't get the bolter discipline stuff, so they need to be within 12 inches to rapid fire. The way I see it, the reason why people take them is to kill hordes, right? So salvo launchers with their secondary profile, they're blast, so they get a 3-min shots anyways, and it's strength 7 and it's -1 D3 damage.
So it's still killing hordes,
so 7 of them, I'm still getting 21 shots. It's not 7 times 12. It's not 90. Was that 94?
It's not like a bucket.
84 shots.
It's a cup, but it's still good.
Yeah, it's 21 shots versus 84 shots, but strength 7, neg 1, D3 damage versus, plus
Strength 4 0
fly,
0.
plus
Yeah.
I can pay a strat to reroll wounds on the flak burst as well. So that's a lot more efficient. Threes usually winning on threes, re-rolling. I think I don't know if I think it has to be at a thing with the fly keyword, but things like Vanguard vets now, Storm Shield Vanguard vets that are
I'm
going
gonna
to
pop
four up
those
invul,
dudes.
like they're
Yeah.
hitting on twos, even if they're in some kind of terrain. They're re-rolling hit on twos, re-rolling ones, and then wounding on threes, re-rolling. So those 21 shots against guys with storm shields, and then it's D3 damage. So that can be a big pain for things like Blood Angels that have a lot of jump infantry. Just the way I've always seen it, the Hurricane Bolters, so you shoot at the screen, and then your Virtus Praetors are sitting there going, okay, what's next? I'm still out of charge range. I always would rather throw the Virtus Praetors up the field, shoot the salvo launchers beyond the screens at the hard targets behind them, the tanks and stuff, the monsters, whatever, and then charge the screens and kill them as efficiently. Unless there's 20 guys in it, but then that's why I have the Caladius tanks. So if I'm looking at a 20-man squad, I can put a bunch of Caladius tanks into that enough to degrade it so that when I charge it, they finish off that squad.
So one thing I wanted to, because I was looking at playing Custodes for a while, so I know like a little bit about the Codex. So one thing that popped out to me about your list was no Trajan. But I figured it might end up being because you want the Terminator guy to get Linebreaker with
Yep.
the Pyrite people.
Yep.
And Lock Warden is a sweet warlord trait.
Yeah, I'm actually going to drop that. It doesn't do enough.
What?
Yeah,
Because he's so slow, right? It's hard for him to get there.
Yeah, usually one of two things. Usually one of two things happen with the Alaris guy. He drops in the backfield and he's either ignored or he's going after soft targets with him and his three guys. Or it tends to be overkill. So like I'll be like, okay, I need Linebreaker. My Virtus Praetors are coming up the field. So usually they dovetail really well together because all I need to get it is that Linebreaker turn 2. Usually by turn 3, my Virtus Praetor is already in range to move into that Linebreaker scoring range. So generally what happens is he's either ignored completely, which is good for me because then it's just Linebreaker points, or he overkills it. Like he'll be like threat and then just blast him off the table, and like, so at that point I'm kind of going, what did Lock Warden really do for me? I don't really end up in a lot of situations where I'm fighting things like Demon Princes or Chaplains, where it's like that that additional neg 1 to invul, -1 to hit, by characters in combat would usually be useful. If he was on a bike, I would see maybe using that to go character hunting. Emperor's Companion to me is just too good to have on my one bike captain. It's just
Which one is that?
Reroll damage rolls. So combine that with the Slayer of the Unclean. You roll, he's re-rolling wounds on the charge. So popping sixes can, I can get 2 or 3 sixes pretty consistently, throughout a game. I'll have one good good spree, but even if I get 2 sixes, those are double damage. And then his Emperor's Companion trait is re-roll the damage rolls. So I get a couple of sixes. Now it's 2d3 damage, re-rolling the damage rolls.
Nasty.
So he's already really good at character killing. I don't really need to make it an additional -1 to invul, especially since Storm Shields now are only a 4 up. So those characters that used to be a little bit harder to kill with the 3 up invul, the smash captains and stuff, functionally he's already getting a neg 1 that he didn't have before. And with 5 attacks, I only need to get 1/6 through, and he has the capacity to kill, most 5/1 characters, all 5/1 characters, 6/1 characters, he can kill them with just one hit. So I don't really see Lock Warden helping me with that too much. The 2d3 is so good, rerolling damage is so good. It doesn't make any sense for me to try to just make that an additional. There's a lot of characters that he'll fight that don't even have an invul save anyways. So it's like. And then you saw I rolled shooting at his guy. I rolled a 6 to wound so it also works on a salvo launcher. So Lock Warden trait doesn't work on a salvo launcher. So I get a reroll the damage roll on a salvo launcher, and I get a if I roll a 6, it's 2d6 damage.
And Lockwarden's only against characters, right? So
Lockwarden's only against characters.
Right.
It might be takeable, but I mean, I
can see the argument for the other one. That sounds
I played like
more useful.
Sisters armies and stuff where it actually turned out to be kind of useful. I mean, you'd think demon armies, but like I said, more often than not, he's getting shot off the board or smited a bunch, and so like he doesn't get into a lot of combats, which is like toe to toe with characters, where that like really comes into play, where he like actually needs it. Most characters he's fighting, backfield characters, they don't really have a chance anyways.
Just like crappy characters.
Yeah, so I mean, like, it's so nominal. I would rather have that extra CP for something like Grim Responsibility, or to do something like Fight on Death if he does happen to fight something that's really scary.
So you buy Lockwarden for him.
So you have to buy Lockwarden, yeah. Well, because because my
because your true warlord is Emperor's companion guy. I see. That makes sense.
Yeah, and then Victor the Blood Games. I am leaning for. I mean, it really came into play this game. It came into play this game.
Yeah, but it's 2 CP, right?
It's 2 CP. I used it 3 times, I think, and then I had an additional CP. So like, it really saved my bacon this game. But the game before, I re-rolled into ones. Didn't do anything. Right. So it was kind of like, and it didn't even matter because he survived anyways. He had like 4 wounds at the end of the game. So
I was wondering when you were playing. And maybe I just maybe I was missing it on the stream, but I felt like every time your bikes were getting hit with stuff, you weren't popping any CP to defend them with strats.
Yeah, because most of his stuff was strength 6.
But what about the no rerolls thing? Was that?
So the Emperor's also the reason why I didn't that one round where I lost the 3 Virtus Praetors. The reason why I didn't do that is because I was leaning into a stooping dive. Okay. So I was kind of expecting him not to charge me, and then I was going to stooping dive. And with stooping dive, I get a reroll.
I see.
So I could do a lot of damage to a Plague Burst, but then he ended up charging me. Not sure I still would have used Emperor's Auspice. I mean, it was kind of one of those points of like, I want to stooping dive if he doesn't charge me, and he's rolling so hot anyways.
You're kind of like, I might as well just try to survive it, and then.
Yeah, and if that unit dies, it is what it is, kind of the thinking. But that would have been another play, I think, that might have tipped the scales just enough for me, because I think that might have, if I even 1 or 2 of those guys survived, that might have been enough of a niche, enough of a burr that I could have functionally done something that could have got me at least 5 points, maybe a little bit more. I don't know, it's hard to say, but yeah, so I guess that's kind of it in a nutshell. I mean, you saw I love being able to maneuver. It's not great getting tied down, but Death Guard is one of those armies that if you're not getting tied down, you're doing great.
So this is where immediately when you said you like fast maneuverable armies, I'm like, why is this guy not playing Eldar?
Yeah.
Why don't you play Eldar? Come on, man. I play Eldar. Dom plays Eldar. Join the club.
Not elite enough for me. I actually got back into the game. I
need to have 10 models or less. Anything more, I reject.
Well, it's funny because I actually got back into the game because of Virtus Praetors. So I was meandering in a hobby shop one day, and I saw these epic guys on bikes with laser, spear like power lances, and I was just like,
that's me.
And then I then found out they had melta-guns, and I was like, basically melta-guns with the salvo line. I was like, yep, I'm gonna play 40K again, because the last tournament armies that I was playing, like I was playing in 4th and 5th edition, and I was a big fan of the bikes. I was a big biker fan. I had this is where you could make your own chapter. They didn't really have this is 4th and 5th edition. So I had a whole army of bikes, power fist sergeants, a couple of melta guns, multi-melta attack bike, and I had 3 big blobs of those, and I had a bunch of land speeders with melta guns, heavy flamers, and that was with the templates at the time. So
templates, dude.
Yeah, and then I always played a big hammer unit of jump infantry with a chaplain who had lightning claws, which you could back then. So a chaplain could take 2 lightning claws, rather than his Crozius. So my chaplain had lightning claws, and then I had a captain with a smash captain with a thunder hammer and a combat shield. Before Storm Shields came out, this was before I think the 3-up invul was even a thing.
Hold the phone. Before Storm Shield.
Yeah, dude. It was combat, or no, Storm Shields was a thing, but captains couldn't take them. because they
You'd
already
have the
got
crappy combat
they
shield.
got Iron Halos. So they already got a 4, or maybe they already had a 4-up. I can't remember.
But
No,
they
I don't
couldn't
think
take a
they
storm
did, because
shield.
I took the combat shield to get the 5-up invul save in combat. So the combat shield used to just be a 5-up invul save in combat. The chaplain had a 4-up innate invulnerable save.
Because it was Rosarius.
Yeah. And that was when AP was completely different. So AP they had an AP value, and if it didn't completely cancel your armor save, you got the full armor save.
Yeah, I remember.
So it had to be like AP3, and then that would cancel your whole armor save, and then you would take your invul. But if it didn't have, it was AP4, AP something else, you got your whole, or it was just like power weapons, no armor saves. So like Power Fist was just like no armor saves.
Because it was AP2.
No armor saves. What's that?
Because all that stuff was AP2.
Now it's different. Yeah.
Now it's like because it used to be like if it was the AP value matched your armor save or was lower than, then you didn't get it because that was crazy shit.
Yeah.
But anyway, but 9th edition though, that was fun. I played in 5th and 7th.
Yeah.
But so the list, are you happy with it as it is? You thinking you might change anything, but you're just kind of like so the Ares, dude.
Yeah.
That thing doesn't always fit. What's up with that?
As far as
it's like if you can't fit it on the deployment zone.
I'm still hoping that pans out. I wrote a big letter to GW during 8th, with like all my suggestions for how they should make Custodes better. And one of the strats that I included that I wrote myself was to basically just deep strike a Custodes vehicle. So when it came out, and then it was just like, you can just deep strike anybody now. I was like, that's awesome.
You're like, that's me.
I'm really happy. So like,
y'all are welcome.
And then this whole controversy kicked up over the Ares gunship, not being able to, apparently not being able to deploy.
I think that's so ridiculous. It's just like, let the dude deploy the thing. Come on.
I'm of the mind that it is the base. So if you read the rules on within and wholly within and measuring distances, there's a parenthetic. So basically it says if the model has a base, you use the base to determine measuring distances, right? So when you're measuring distances, if the model has a base, you use the base. If the model doesn't have a base, you use the hull. And so it says base, and then parenthetically it has hull. So when I read section 11 of the the grand tournament thing, I was like,
my dude has the section memorized.
Yeah, so I do at this point. If the model doesn't fully have,
we're talking about the Ares gunship, Dom.
Time to play. All right, I gotta go. But
all right, dude. Good talking to you.
Probably a good spot for me because
we were about to get like into notes.
Yeah. So you saved us by the bell here. Like we can have that one offline if you want sometime.
Yeah, for sure. We'll talk.
Yeah. All right, man. Sounds good. Man. Well, thanks.
Yeah, dude. Good talking to you. See ya.
So I moved your models.
Okay.
You're playing on the first one.
All right, sounds good.
So.
Oh man.
Keeping clear.
Nice. There you have it, guys. That was a Custodes expert. He was ready to pull out he was naming the specific section of the grand tournament packet with about the Ares gunship thing. That was funny. Oh my god.
Yes.
Yeah. I'll be right back because I gotta get out of that restaurant.
All right, guys. So final round's about to start. The matchups. Let's see. I don't think I even gave the matchups on here, but we're doing the final is going to be Blood Angels versus Necrons. And then for third place, we have Death Guard versus Black Templars. Unfortunately, the fourth place is actually Custodes, but because everyone's already played each other, I needed to mix it up a little bit. That's how it works. On other tables, we have Ryan, who you just talked to, with Custodes versus Necrons, the other Necron player. We have Space Wolves versus Nids, who just faced Black Templars. And then we have the Harlequin Eldar army against the other Space Wolves player. Put that in BCP. Get this going. I don't know what they scored. Shoot. I don't care. Yeah, we're waiting for one more table and they tied, so it's great. Gotta change all these lists. Let's go to. Got to mic up the players right now. They're getting everything set up. Now we got to wait a little bit, unfortunately.
All right.
Back? Okay. So we got the matchups. I'm just setting up BCP. So on the first place table, we have Blood Angels going against Necron Horde.
Okay.
And then on the other stream, we're having Black Templars again versus the Death Guard, who just faced on stream as well.
Nice.
So you get lots of stream games with those people. Unfortunately, I was saying it's actually third place versus sixth place right now because fourth and fifth place, everyone's already fought. So it's a bit odd. That's how it works in RTT. I don't want people playing each other all the time. I mean, I don't. You can't play the same person with only 12 people. It's not very fun.
Because you'd be like, dude, I played you like 2 hours ago. What is this?
Yeah, exactly.
This is ridiculous.
Yeah, you don't want to do the same thing over and over again. Doing all the pairings here.
It's crazy.
Gotta get serious. I see kids outside. Good, they're not coming over.
Oh yeah,
This is not time for candy, kids.
this is Halloween, isn't it? That's weird.
Warhammer. Warhammer.
Spooky.
Craig, I guess I don't know when you said. Oh, if you said this right now. No, Nids have. So Nids just played Space Wolves and they tied. So Nids have only tied. It's unfortunate.
So there's no Nid wins today.
There are no Nid wins right now. There could be.
Hey,
Space Wolves versus Nid, although he already played. We already had that game with the other Nids. So we'll see. It's unfortunate. Make sure I got all the players here. And then all right, there we go. So let's talk about what you think about the matchups here. We got the